hope you're ready for some illogic. Last time we went over a Week 8 match, the final match of the regular season versus Matt and his Cincinnati Incineroar. Please go check out that video first if you have not done so already, as we went over the team builder and battle in which, spoiler alert, the Buffalo Boufflant won their second match in a row, bringing us back up to 500 and finishing the regular season in 5th place at 4-4 plus 10. This time, we're in the playoffs. Well, everybody's in the playoffs, but our spot did net us a match against the number 12 team in the league in a Week 5 rematch versus the Mighty Miltanks. Timestamps will be in the description. Week 5 was ugly, to say the least. I'm not exaggerating when I say it was the worst game of draft I've ever played, and it feels like my mindset was better in meme matches than it was in that match. And now with the opportunity for redemption in front of us, I'm sorry, Tony, but you will be yet another victim of the might of the Buffalo Boufflant, the first of 4 straight wins we need in order to be crowned champion of yet another regular draft season in the Wooper Club League. We've gone over his team before, but it's worth taking another look at it in context of my new additions. He's got Jinx as his fastest Mon, meaning Zeraora, Noivern, Cobalion, and Victini outpace his whole squad at neutral, followed by Skuntank, Dragonite, Venusaur, Malamar, Barbaracle, Celesteela, Grimmsnarl, Azumarill, Cursula, and Torkoal. Sun component with Torkoal and Venusaur, Trick Room with Cursula, lots of priority with Dragonite, Grimmsnarl, and Azumarill, setup with Dragonite, Venusaur, Malamar, Barbaracle, Celesteela, and Azumarill, supported by Grimmsnarl screen support. The two main weaknesses are the speed, which is patched with the priority and plus speed shenanigans, and the typings, which are all over the place and allow some moves to be particularly spammable. Overall, I'm going to focus on the same 6 that he brought in Week 5. The others don't bring nearly as much as I had maybe thought, especially things like Jinx or Skuntank, with Cursula being destroyed by most of my physical team, Malamar getting chipped way too easily by the power of my team exerts, and Barbaracle looking slightly better with Bulu out of the picture, but still not finding the right time or place to set up. Grimmsnarl was something I didn't prep for enough for last time, even with Brick Break on Obstagoon. Screens, T-Wave, and stab moves are all threatening, especially with Spirit Break hitting Obstagoon and Darkest Lariat ignoring bulk up attempts against it. The Sun is annoying, Torkoal taking hits on the physical side and setting up rocks and removing rocks, and using very strong fire moves thanks to the boost from the elements. That also, of course, boosts up Venusaur, who loves to use growth access, plus sleep powder, plus coverage, including stabs, weather ball, and earth power to further grind me down. Azumarill is always a big threat, especially with Latios being replaced with a much less reliable Azu check. Belly Drum and Citrus Berry is incredibly threatening and forces me to look at what can survive at a plus 6 Aqua Jet at all times, not to mention Choice Band itself, putting in the utmost of work, and lots of natural bulk at 100 base HP. Finally, the 2 that ruined my life Week 5 are the flying types, Celesteela and Dragonite. It turns out that Celesteela has great coverage and more than usable attacking stats, and it can put those to good use. Stabs, Fire Blast, Seed Bomb, Earthquake, Stone Edge, Superpowers, and Headbutt, Megahorn, Meteor Beam, which is a really cool set, and the ability to stall with Leech Seed and Toxic. And Dragonite, well, I've already mentioned before how tough dragons could be without a fairy, and my ground weakness is pretty prevalent as well. D-Dance is a problem, can't afford to give this the chance to set up even a little bit. For me, it's more the same. Claydol was eliminated early, rocks aren't the biggest problem, and it would really only come as a Dragonite check with Ice Beam and the ground immunity. It can also handle Torkoal decently, but that is honestly the full extent of its use, being mauled by Celesteela forever, and being weak to a stab from literally every single other Mon on his team. Tangela also rests, as even with the Earthquake resist, Dual Wing Beat still destroys me, not to mention Celesteela, Venusaur, and Torkoal eating me up for breakfast. Arctivish circles mightily. Venusaur and Azumarill are the main culprits here, and it has decent use outside of the Sun, but from here, I don't know. The decisions are kind of tough. Rotom came last time and didn't have speed for some reason, so it'll be benched here. Specs was an intriguing option, honestly. I just couldn't justify it over the other 7. Speaking of, Vanillix had a real shot of coming. I really love the idea of Ice Shard finishing off low health targets like D-Dance, D-Knight, and Venusaur, but it really doesn't do that much else, and I could often be better served by just outpacing those targets naturally anyways. Speaking of, one thing I really liked about that first match was Scarf Zeraora, so I'll bring it back. Outspeeding plus 2 D-Knight when plus 3 E-Speed Okos anyways, and Venusaur and Barbaracle and Celesteela is so good, so I'll reprise my role. Plasma Fists is obvious, with only Venusaur as a resist. Blaze Kick, of course, is for that resist, though I'd prefer not to let Azumarill come in so easily. Play Rough is a way to hit Dragonite, much harder if needed, and Volt Switch is a great finisher if something is low and I don't want to be stuck into a move. Only a small change from last match, but there's more coming. Take this Obstagoon, for example, which is very similar actually to last time, but there's a bit of nuance now. Speed for Jolly D-Knight is awesome to achieve with an Adamant Nature, and I can OHKO things like Jinx with knockoff even without the burn now. Facade is obvious, OHKOing even no HP Venusaur, but things like Obstruct and Switcheroo are here when they probably shouldn't have been week 8. Switcheroo is awesome against a Revenging Dragonite in particular, as well as Azumarill, crippling them permanently for the rest of the match. Volt Switch from Zero Ore into this is incredible, activating the Burn and immediately destroying physically offensive answers. This can definitely sweep too. Imagine switchering the orb onto D-Knight as it dances and then swapping it out for later. The multi-skill gets broken by the burn too, and once that's done, only Celesteela comfortably survives anything that we're throwing out. Obstruct, of course, can get that turn of burn, as well as stall out turns, as well as punish Dragonite if it's an Outrage Warpath, and it's either set up or grabbed a KO anyway. A nice backup option to help out in dealing with the dragon. Maybe allowing Goon to live a hit before facading for a KO, or switcherooing the Flame Orb onto it for further neutralization. And without a fighting type in sight, Goon might finally be able to put in the work. How about Nidoking, who also came last time with about the same EV thread, but now has a different move? Well, I got punished last time for not bringing Sludge Wave, so now it's here, but almost wasn't, considering a different plan I've got this time. You see that Brick Break now in Nidoking? Yep, this is my 100% Grimmsnarl answer, and I've sacrificed coverage to do it. The idea is pretty simple: Sludge Wave Grimmsnarl once, then Brick Break it every time to ensure screens aren't up for the rest of the team, especially that nasty Celesteela. So overall, Brick Break the screens, Sludge Wave as a reliable stab, Earth Power for the quite possibly very relevant Torkoal OHKO, an Ice Beam for Venusaur and D-Knight. Thunderbolt was originally on here for Celesteela, but the rest of the coverage I felt was 100% necessary, and I think it's probably fine to have exactly one team member that walls Nidoking. I really waffled a ton of different ways. I've had each of those 4 moves off of the set at a different time when making the team, but ultimately settled on that Thunderbolt being removed. I have other ways to deal with Celesteela, or at least I hope. This is my lead every time. We're going to OHKO any Torkoal we see, and most importantly, we'll make sure Grimmsnarl never ever gets screens to its teammates, and then it does over half to his entire team. Similar role then to Obstagoon, but it will be destructive. Cobalion is back, but we're super defensive this week as another emergency D-Knight answer, as well as Azumarill and Barbaracle, with Rocky Helmet to potentially finish them off if needed. Maybe twice. I almost went with Endure on this. I thought that would have been a pretty sick tech on there, but I don't think it was guaranteed to make sure that would happen or make sure to be relevant, so I ended up putting a Stealth Rock onto the set at just the last minute, but that's okay. I do survive with this EV spread, +6 Aqua Jet from Azu pretty easily, so I don't anticipate coming out unless it's absolutely needed. But that helmet is so useful in that case, as well as with Dragonite that may be locked into Outrage, and we'll go into that a little bit later. T-Wave can let my team respond to D-Knight. Volt Switch should finish by chunking Azumarill. We've got the cheeky Taunt and Stealth Rock, of course. Stealth Rock is kind of decent if I need to bring it in somewhat early and maybe break a multi-scale on Dragonite, or just chunking something else. It really takes away focus hashes as well, too, which is something that could definitely come from my opponent. And that Taunt is possible to click against a super stall heavy Celesteela, say it has Leech Seed. This should hopefully make sense. I wasn't too sure what to do with Cobalion this week, but I knew I'd liked its resistances a lot, and thought this would be a good safety net if things got out of hand. Celesteela is eventually worn down, the sun eventually expires for Venusaur, but the D-Knight and Azu boosts are permanent while they're out, so I really wanted this taken care of, and that's why I really like having the Rocky Helmet full Fizdef on here, and the Switcheroo Flame Orb on Obstagoon. The two new members, of course, that should be able to dispose of the Celesteela. We'll start with Noivern, I suppose the weaker of the two, who of course has Flamethrower to hit Celesteela with, Roost for recovery to supplement the Spadef that we've got as a special check to Torkoal and Venusaur. Air Slash is a better way to KO the Venusaur without lowered accuracy on Hurricane, and around out the set with Taunt as a way to stop setup in its tracks. Azu comes in on me, no Belly Drum. D-Knight comes in, no D-Dance. Yes, I'll probably go down to a player for Outrage, but it's so much more important to me to stop the sweep if that's the way I'll go down. Looking at you, week 6. Lots of special bulk means it can go toe-to-toe with Venusaur more easily, as well as Torkoal, which I can also stop from getting rocks often. Don't need much speed to even outspeed Jinx, so this works pretty well for me, I think. The last set of the week is going to be Victini. V-Create doesn't need much of an intro, and that move puts in even more work in the sun. Coverage moves are meant for the Fire Resist, with Bolt Strike hitting Azumarill. Glaciate is the off move that hits Dragonite and slows it down too, and U-Turn as a strong pivot move that actually OHKOs Jinx, funnily enough. That's important too if I don't want to trigger my held item for the week, Eject Pack. We saw it week 4 against Chad with Latias, but it's very important to not let my opponent set up for free and take advantage of my lowered stats. So this time I'm going with Eject Pack so I can safely execute Celesteela, break D-Knight's multi-skill on the switch, or murder Venusaur without risking something coming in to get the big hit off in front of my -1/-1/-1 booty. Oh, and for anyone curious about my damage output in the sun, max HP Azumarill is 2-hit KO'd by V-Create, so enjoy tanking this. It's a pretty solid team that I think can take care of business this time around. Let's head into the match. Yep, same 6 as last time. Really not surprised he'd bring his 6 best mon, so let's lead Nidoking and get down to business. Good luck, have fun. And it's Dragonite. That is not the lead I expected. So Earthquake at +1 does not OHKO me most of the time, and I could fire right back with Ice Beam. But I'm worried. You lead Dragonite when you're not wearing boots, right? And the worst case scenario item is Weakness Policy. As a +3, he will OHKO everything without having to be locked into Outrage. I do want to pop the multi-scale, of course, but if he attacks straight away, this could get messy. Oh, we're just going to click Sludge Wave, just 35%, breaks the multi-scale, and D-Dance is the play. Yikes. Well, this was the scenario I wanted to avoid the most, but maybe we can limit him to 2 D-Dances and or force him into Outrage with Noivern, whose Frisk reveals that he is indeed Weakness Policy as he D-Dances again. Well, I have to hope this is threatening enough. Wow, why didn't I bring a Dragon move? But the bluff works. Outrage comes out to OHKO Noivern. That may seem bad, but it's honestly the best case scenario for me. Now that he is locked in, Cobalion can come in with near max physical defense and a Rocky Helmet, paralyze this thing right now. There we go. And now we have a couple of options to revenge this if necessary, especially as he takes more Rocky Helmet chip. I waffled on this last move on Cobalion frequently, but now is as good a time as any to get up my rocks, as he's going to take even more chip. We take those. Taunt is going to come out to ensure he can't get to +3 and let me revenge, even if I go down to EQ here, but it's ultimately unnecessary as he hurts himself in confusion, and at +2 he will claim himself as the KO victim. 5-5 may seem even, but his Dragon Flying Mon was way scarier and way more important than mine. I'm honestly feeling good here. This wasn't something I really talked too much about in the team builder, but overall in prep, this is a big reason why I wanted to bring Noivern to this battle. I didn't want everything to be on the ground, I didn't want everything to be weak to ground. I wanted something that could force him to use a move that isn't Earthquake, because his other moves will make contact and force him to make contact with Cobalion, in particular with his Rocky Helmet. And with all that Fizz Stuff, it means that I have a better shot at surviving multiple hits, as I did very comfortably there, taking very little damage from Outrage. It was a resist, but less than 40 from +2 Dragonite is total. Honestly, we'll take that. That's pretty good. And it forced him to start outraging and not D-Dance anymore, which is awesome because it meant that I could do things like obstruct with Obstagoon or come in and revenge with Zero Aura if necessary. I didn't necessarily need to do this with the Cobalion, but I felt it was a little bit safer. Of course, Azu is a bigger threat now because we do not survive a +6 Aqua Jet anymore, obviously, but we'll come to that as we get there. And honestly, we're playing a little bit more aggressively in this battle anyway, so I think it's probably fine. Torkoal is going to come out next, and it's going to take the Rock Stick 25%, which is actually quite chunky on what is otherwise a nice tank. I am definitely Volt Switching here, and my luck will continue with a crit. This definitely affected my play, as I would have originally gone into Victini and Torkoal to tank a potential fire move coming out. However, with the crit, Torkoal is actually exactly now in Facade range. I'm willing to risk it. Obstagoon comes out, and I'm rewarded with the Rapid Spin. That is actually fantastic, because I take minimal damage and only risk Focus Sashes now. Plus, Obstagoon is set up and ready to go. Facade is going to come out, and it will indeed KO the Torkoal. Excellent. 5-4 now. Venusaur, the fearsome Sunsweeper, is out next, but looking at the calcs, I shouldn't have too much to worry about, especially with Scarf Zero in the back, just in case. That is not the situation I want to be in, of course, with an Azumarill coming out. So we're just going to stay in, and my determination is proven fruitful, as Venusaur wants to set up on my face, but Obstagoon says no. Goodbye, Venusaur. I promised last week that Obstagoon would get to do something, and he sure did. I'm so proud. Let's keep the pain train going. Azumarill is next, and oh, this is one of the only ways I can lose now, right? But let's stop any shenanigans immediately with the switcheroo. Enjoy the burn orb, buddy. And I'll take the band, which, oh, well, I guess I won't take the band. Boo. Well, it's better than taking a superpower or player off. Azu is effectively neutered, and Obstagoon has taken this game by the horns. I'm just going to launch a Facade, but it goes straight into Celesteela, who is... oh, wow, that is very physically bulky. Knockoff right now. His weakness policy is set up as I think the last win con he actually has. And he's just going to click Leech Seed, but without lefties it isn't as effective. I think we've got this one in the bag at this point, honestly. From here I can play super safe to avoid any nasty surprises. Double into Victini on the Protect, perfect. Bolt Strike can KO from here, but it can also catch that Azu for most of his health. Awesome. The easiest way to ensure this goes down is going to be Cobalion coming in. take the liquidation because we're so physically tanky, and the last 21% of his health goes down to helmet plus burn. Grimmsnarl is going to be next. We're going to taunt that immediately so Nidoking can come in and brick break after if needed, but he just brings me down, so no problem whatsoever. Without the ability to put up screens, Obstagoon looks real good, so we're just going to Facade here to pick up Goon's 4th KO of the match. Jeez. And with just Celesteela left, it's just about getting a little bit of chip before letting Zero Aura come in afterwards to pick up the final KO. Could have been Victini just as well, but Zero Aura is currently number 2 on the leaderboard for KOs, so I think this worked out just fine. And with Zero Aura's Plasma Fist, getting the last KO even at +1 defense, goes down, and we are going to pick up the 3-0 victory over the Miltanks. GG to Tony, some incredibly scary pieces that I don't plan on underestimating ever again, and that will bring us into the quarterfinals. Obstagoon. Wow, I'm glad the Goon set actually worked this time. Very pleased to see how much work I put in there. Decimating the Sun Core, plus burning Azu, plus taking the item off Celesteela, and getting in range for Bolt Strike, plus finishing off Grimmsnarl. The other note is, of course, the handling of D-Knight. Very proud to have resisted clicking Ice Beam in favor of Sludge Wave. I'd say that definitely worked out. Though staying in and claiming that Ice Beam KO on turn 2 would have been so sweet. Nah, this was better. This was a lot safer, ensuring he outraged to let Cobalion do its thing. Cobalion, always a crucial member of the team. It feels like that, at least. Well, that'll do it, I suppose. Next time we've got our top 8 match, and this will be a good one. The Route 1 Burbs are new to our league, and we didn't face them in the regular season, but his victory over the Miltanks last week secured him the number 4 seed instead of letting us take it. We were destined to fight, so this should be very exciting. See ya.